Following the new update, we're gonna have 6 espers to choose from. But first, I'm gonna go through the espers that is currently in the live server. There's only 8 hours left. I'm gonna blitz through them real quick. So we have Enkidu, we have Leora, we have TA, and lastly we have Jinchu. I'll put on the screen on what residence they're worth it to summon on. In my opinion, all of them are not worth it to summon at R0. Going for R0 espers is not worth it because it costs 100 wish stones. This game is all about managing your resources, how well you can spend your wish stones, how well you can spend your Nexus crystals to make sure that you are ahead of other players. So getting new espers is not really worth it because it's gonna cost you 100. It's best to just pull them naturally from either gold records or elemental records. There's a handful of espers that are worth it to go for R0, which is in the upcoming esper pool. The rest is not worth it, okay? So the explanation, Leora, I went over her multiple times. She has been rerun I think twice now, or probably like 3 times. She is only a Chronos unit. You don't really use her anywhere else. I don't even use her in my Chronos team anymore. And after a while, you don't really want to be farming Chronos anymore because Chronos gives you absolutely garbage relics. There's only one relic that you should be looking for, which is the Wind Relics. And this is also a relic that has been kind of useless from this point on, except for RTA. Because everything in the game uses rival runes, so getting the fastest wind set is no longer worth it. Yeah, Leora, you only use her in Chronos and you don't really want to be farming Chronos anymore, so skip her entirely. Next up, TA. At this point, I don't think TA is worth it anymore. She's still a solid esper for PvP, but again, getting her at R0 is not worth it. R2 is also not worth it, and R6 is also not worth it unless you get her naturally. There's just better units than her. Speed is not the way anymore. Tank team is the best way to go in PvP. Right now, the only place that I'm using TA is in Counter Sonica. Some people do use her in Forbiter, but really not that many people use her because again, she only AP controls. She doesn't really do damage. And the reason why people use her in Sonica is because of her R2, where if she manages to land her S1 AP steal, she will also boost your team by 10%. In PvP, I don't use her anymore. I have her at R3. She does have a very good captain ability, the best one. Speed plus 25%. But again, it's not about going first anymore. It's about how well your tank team does, right? Speed is still meta in knockout offense. So you don't really need her, you just need a speed lead. And the way that she gains you the first turn is very bad because she needs to attack the enemy, use an AoE skill, to then distribute the AP to your allies. By needing to attack first, it also means that the enemies can attack you back by counter-attacking and then sometimes steal your turn. So for example, if the enemy has a Sienna or a TA of their own, when the S1 proc Avatara onto your TA when she gets the first turn, they're gonna steal the turn and then turn the tide back to you. So again, it's very bad how she distributes AP. Rather than just being a straight up AP push, she needs to attack first. Even at R6, she needs to attack in order to give the AP push. So again, not worth it to R0 anymore. Jinchu, like I said, R0 is not worth it. He's pretty much useless at R0, but at R2 he becomes a beast for Mavis. That combo is still going around, especially in knockout offense. That's a very good team that you can pretty much win against any tank teams except for like maybe Wuyu comps. And then at R6 he becomes a beast, but his R6 is not the top priority anymore in my opinion because Enkidu is in the game right now. He's already falling off slightly in PvP, not just because of Enkidu alone, but because he is a bruiser. When a bruiser gets to R6 D6, that's their max potential. And if they are struggling even a little bit at R6 D6, then it's probably not a good idea to be R6ing them unless you have a ton of resources. So R6 Jinchu, in my opinion at this point, is kind of a risky investment because again, you need him to be at R6, you also need him to be high divinate for him to work. He is only used in PvP. He has pretty much zero use in PvE except for some people use him in Andras, but that's a very slow team because he takes way too many turns. Only in PvP, and he is slightly falling off even before Enkidu was released. And with Enkidu's release, which I'm gonna go into right now, this guy is not worth it at R0 because At R0, he's pretty much only to counter Jinchu, but just being the sole purpose to counter Jinchu is not worth it, the 100 Wish Stones in my opinion. At R2 though, he becomes the best wave clearer because he doesn't even need to take a turn. This guy at R2 becomes the best wave clearer. You will have no troubles with any of the event trials anymore as long as it's a wave clearer. And he is also the best unit for Fafnir, again, for wave clearing. So a lot of people have been using him in Fafnir and getting very good results. One of them is Agrogro, obviously. He is the best right now in Fafnir with 7.7 turns. Insanity with an R4 Amir, but you only need him at R2. And that's not all of his uses. He is also being used in Felsoto Fantasy for Forbiter, and some people are also using him in Dark Starlord. I'll go over Forbiter first. The reason why he's being used in Forbiter is because when he S3, he also puts a disease debuff on the boss. So I think the third player right here, yeah, there we go, fourth player is using Amir in the team because again his third skill does put disease debuff on the boss. And what you need in Forbiter is you either land sleeps on the boss, or if you don't want to land sleeps, then you can also land disease in order to keep the damage of Forbiter in check. The reason why he is being used for Dark Starlord is because it's pretty much the same reason as why I use Narmer in Dark Starlord. There's 3 enemies and he does a lot of pursuits with his AoE attacks. Every time he does his S3 proc, he's also gonna follow up with the Righteous Resolve, which is also attacking all 3 of the enemies in Dark Starlord. So the same reason why I'm using Narmer is also the same reason why people are using this guy in Dark Starlord. There's a lot of enemies and he does a lot of AoE damage. He spams a lot of AoE damage, and yeah, he's just really good for Dark Starlord. And lastly, his position in PvP is, again, it's really good against Jinchu, but in against other teams, he still struggles against R6 Daji, which is the main problem right now to counter. And also against Wuyu comps, if he's not high enough resonance and also not high enough divinate, he can still lose against those Wuyu comps. So final result, R0 not worth it, R2 worth it, R4 worth it, R6 also worth it, but if you have a ton of resources laying around, you can stop at R4 with this guy. So that's about it for all of the Espers in the live server. In the next update, we'll have 6 options. In Phase 1 or in Week 1, we'll have Feng Shun and Nora. Phase 2, Week 2, we'll have Embla and Fu Shi. And then in Phase 3 or Week 3, we'll have Gaius and Jin Yu Yao. I'll go over Feng Shun and Nora first. Nora, complete skip. There's not much to talk about. She's pretty much useless everywhere except for the Calamity Towers. Feng Shun, remember when I said there's a handful of Espers that you should R0 even when it costs 100 Wish Stones? Feng Shun is one of them. Feng Shun is one of the best PvE Espers in the game. It will help you tremendously in all 3 of the Felsoto Fantasy bosses. There's 3 main reasons why he is exceptional in PvE. Number 1, he is your healer. Number 2, he is your attack buffer, your speed buffer. And then lastly, on top of being a healer, on top of being support for attack buff and a speed buff, he's also your DPS. Most of the time, he is my second best DPS in the team because I have Embla in the team. Embla is number 1. And then this guy, being healer and support, he is the second best DPS in the team, which is insane. So again, Feng Shun, worth it to R0 for all 3 of the bosses. He never disappoints, not even once, except for like maybe PvP. In PvP, he has slightly fallen off because he can't really keep up with all of the counters coming towards him. But in PvE, he's still probably like top 3, I would say, best units in the game. So R0 worth it, R2 is where you want him to be, and then you can stop there. R4 is a little bit of a bonus, you don't really need to. And then R6, I would advise highly against it. R6 is only for PvP, and his slot in PvP is not that good, except for in knockout offense. Now for week 2, we're gonna have Embla and Fu Shi. This is a very tough choice. Embla is still the best PvE DPS unit in the game. She still does 20 million by herself. Of course, you still need the team to be built around her. So Embla is another unit that I would say if you don't have her at R0, she's worth it to get at R0. Even at R0, she's going to be performing very well for 2 out of 3 of the bosses. But when you get her to R2 is when she becomes a completely different beast for Dark Star-Lord, because now she becomes AoE. The seeds will now detonate and proc AoE, right? And then at R6 is when she becomes a god in Dark Star-Lord. So you can stop at any resonance you want, R0, and then at R6 is pretty much only for Dark Star-Lord. It doesn't really change much for Forbiter or Sonica for R6. So if you really don't have enough resources, just go for R2 and then just stop there. In PvP, she has been revived because of Fushi, which I'll go into right now. Fushi, R0, not worth it at all. He is not the best support for Embla at R0. The best support for Embla at R0 is Feng Shun and also Liam. This guy is not the best because he needs to take an additional turn for Embla to proc and assist with her S1. At R2 though, he becomes decent support for Embla. Again, not the best. Feng Shun and Liam is still better than him, because now when he casts his S3, he also gains a bonus turn which he can use to use his S1, and then Embla procs the pursuit. So again, not the best because he still needs to take a turn for Embla to proc and assist, but at R6 is when he becomes the best support for Embla, because now when he casts his S3, Embla will also perform an assist with her S3. So there's no downtime whether Embla is going to assist or not. Whenever he gets his turn, Embla will always assist no matter what. What's the verdict on Fushi? Fushi, R0, not worth it at all. R2 also, I would say not worth it at all. And then R6, if you do have enough resources and a little bit more wish stones to get the next Esper, I would say it's worth it to R6 him. But keep in mind, his position in PvP has been dwindling down every single patch. He doesn't get any better. It's pretty much getting downhill at this point for his PvP presence, and also for Embla's PvP presence as well. Me personally, I'm getting R6 Fushi because I have him at R2 right now. I got pretty lucky pulling 2 copies of him from Go Records. So to get him to R6, it would cost me 280 wish stones, which I have 580 right now. So I have 300 left for whatever Esper I want. Now week 3, Gaius Jinyu Yao. Very simple, skip Gaius entirely. R0, R2, R4, R6. He has been power crept by every single new releases so far. Leora is just a straight up better Gaius at this point. And then Jinyu Yao, R0 you get her for free. R2 is not worth it, R4 is not worth it, R6 is also not worth it at this point. She just doesn't do enough for the team. She is still the best cleanser in the game, but just being a cleanser is not enough anymore. You need to be a cleanser, you need to provide also like buffs to your team, or if you're not providing buffs, then you should provide damage, or if you're not providing damage, then you should provide damage reduction. You know, something like R6 Sally. The reason why R6 Sally is still being used is because she cleanses and she provides damage reduction. So yeah, that's about it for all of the Espers. Hopefully this is useful. If you would ask me which one is the top priority, at this point, in my opinion, R0 Feng Shun is needed for every single account. If you don't have an R0 Feng Shun, you are at a major disadvantage. So he is the #1 priority, getting him to R0. His R2 is also very high priority, but I wouldn't say it's the top priority. The top priority is getting him to R0. The next priority between Enkidu, Embla, and Fushi, or even Jinchu, I would have to say Embla. Embla R0 is still a game changer for a person's account. And then the third one is going to go to Enkidu. Enkidu's R2. And then R6 Jinchu is probably 4th in the priority list. But yeah, that's about it. And ciao.